Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Meridian watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months, now exploring systems near Kepler 442. His crew was getting restless. But Jake knew this mission was important for humanity's future. Dr. Lisa Grant worked at her science station running scans on nearby planets. She was the best xenobiologist Earth had, and Jake trusted her completely. Commander Ryan Burke sat at the tactical station keeping watch for any threats. Lieutenant Amy Foster monitored all communications from her post near the captain's chair. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake was reviewing star charts when Amy suddenly straightened up at her station. Her face showed confusion and excitement at the same time. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Amy said. "It's not natural, and it's definitely not from any human ship." Jake walked over to Amy's station and looked at her screen. The readings showed a complex signal coming from somewhere beyond the system they were studying. The signal had mathematical patterns that were clearly made by intelligent beings. "Dr. Grant, please take a look at this," Jake called out. Lisa left her station and joined them. She studied the signal for several minutes before her eyes went wide. The patterns were not just random numbers, but actual star charts and coordinates. Someone or something was trying to communicate with them. "This is incredible," Lisa whispered. The signal contains references to stellar positions and what looks like an invitation to meet somewhere. Jake felt his heart racing. This was what humanity had been hoping for since they first traveled to the stars. They were not alone in the universe, and someone wanted to talk. "Amy, can you decode where they want us to go?" Jake asked. Amy worked quickly with Lisa helping her understand the alien mathematics. After an hour, they had coordinates for a location about 2 days away at maximum speed. The signal also contained what seemed to be safe passage instructions. Jake called his senior officers to the conference room. Along with Lisa, Ryan, and Amy, he also brought in Chief Engineer Pete Davis and Medical Officer Dr. Karen White. They needed to decide if this was worth the risk. "This could be the most important moment in human history," Lisa said. "We have to respond." To this invitation, Ryan was more careful in his thinking. "We don't know anything about these beings. They could be dangerous. We should contact Earth Command first." "That would take weeks," Amy pointed out. "The signal might not stay active that long." Jake listened to all their opinions, but he already knew what he had to do. This was why they were out here exploring the unknown. Earth Command had given him authority to make first contact decisions. "We're going to the meeting location," Jake decided. "But we stay alert and ready to run if things go wrong." The Meridian changed course and headed toward the coordinates. During the 2-day journey, the crew prepared for anything. Ryan made sure all weapons were ready, even though they hoped not to need them. Lisa studied the signal more and found additional information about peaceful intentions. When they arrived at the coordinates, Jake could not believe what he saw. A massive space station hung in empty space between 2 dead stars. The station was unlike anything humans had ever built. It was beautiful, with flowing curves and glowing sections that seemed to pulse with life. "Sensors show the station is over 50 kilometers long," Ryan reported. "It has technology readings that are far beyond anything we understand." Before Jake could respond, Amy received another signal. This time, it was in perfect English, which meant the aliens had been studying human communications. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the message said. "I am Ambassador Zefkai of the Ultrarian Republic. On behalf of the Galactic Council, we invite you to dock at Bay 7. We have much to discuss." Jake felt amazed and nervous at the same time. The Galactic Council meant there were many alien species working together. Humanity was about to join something much bigger than they had ever imagined. "Take us to Bay 7, Amy," Jake ordered. "And everyone stay calm. We're about to make history." The Meridian approached the massive station slowly. Jake could see other ships docked at various bays. Each ship looked different, suggesting many different alien races used this place. The technology was clearly far ahead of human capabilities. As they docked, Jake wondered what these aliens wanted from humanity. The message had sounded friendly, but Ryan was right to be careful. They were about to meet beings who could probably destroy Earth without much effort. Full diplomatic protocol, Jake told his crew. We represent all of humanity now, so let's make a good impression. The airlock connected with a soft hiss, and Jake prepared to step into a larger universe than humanity had ever known. Whatever happened next would change everything for the human race forever. Jake Morrison stepped through the airlock, followed by Lisa Grant, Ryan Burke, and Amy Foster. The corridor beyond was unlike anything they had seen before. The walls seemed to glow with soft light, and the air felt clean and fresh. Strange symbols covered the surfaces, but somehow Jake could understand their meaning as if the station was translating directly into his mind. Ambassador Zefkai waited for them at the end of the corridor. The alien was tall and graceful, with skin that looked almost see-through. Jake could see what might be veins or energy flowing beneath the surface. The being's eyes were large and kind, and when it spoke, Jake heard the words in his own language. "Welcome," Captain Morrison and crew of the Meridian Zefkai said with what seemed like a smile. "We have been waiting for humanity to reach the stars for a very long time." Jake tried to stay calm, but his mind was racing with questions. "Ambassador Zefkai, we are honored to meet you. How do you know our language, and how long have you been watching us?" "We have observed your species for several hundred years," the alien replied. "Your radio signals and digital communications have taught us much about human culture. We learned your languages to prepare for this moment." Lisa stepped forward, with her scientific curiosity taking over. "You mentioned the Galactic Council. How many species are part of this organization?" Zefkai gestured for them to follow as he began walking down the corridor. 47 species currently make up the council. We represent thousands of worlds across this part of the galaxy. All of us have achieved what we call evolutionary enlightenment. Ryan stayed alert as they walked, but Jake noticed the aliens seemed to have no guards or weapons. The station felt completely peaceful, as if the concept of danger did not exist here. Other beings moved through the corridors, but none seemed concerned about the human visitors. They entered a vast chamber with a transparent dome showing the stars above. Dozens of different alien species moved about their business. Some looked almost human, while others were completely strange. All of them seemed calm and content as they worked together on various tasks. "This is remarkable," Amy whispered as she looked around. "How do so many different species cooperate so well?" "That is the result of our great awakening," Zefkai explained. "Each member species underwent a fundamental evolution in consciousness. We abandoned warfare, competition, and aggression many thousands of years ago. Violence simply does not exist in our society anymore." Jake felt confused by this idea. "But how do you handle disagreements or conflicts of interest?" "We have learned that all conflicts can be resolved through understanding and compromise," the ambassador said. "When resources are shared freely and all beings work for the common good, there is no need for struggle." Lisa was fascinated by the technology around them. She saw machines that seemed to create matter from energy and devices that appeared to read thoughts directly. "Your scientific advancement is incredible. How did you achieve all this? When we stopped wasting resources on military technology and weapons, we could focus all our energy on peaceful development," Zefkai replied. "Imagine what your species could accomplish if you eliminated your defense spending and military research." Ryan looked uncomfortable with this suggestion. "But how do you protect yourselves from external threats?" The aliens seemed confused by the question. "What threats could exist? All intelligent species eventually reach enlightenment and join the peaceful community. Aggression is simply a phase that gets left behind during evolution." They continued the tour, seeing amazing sights throughout the station. Jake watched aliens sharing knowledge, freely helping each other with complex problems and creating beautiful art together. It seemed like paradise, but something felt wrong to him, though he could not explain what. "We would like to offer humanity membership in the Galactic Council," Zefkai said as they reached a conference room. "However, your species will need to demonstrate commitment to abandoning warfare and violence." "What would that involve?" Jake asked. "A cultural exchange program lasting approximately 200 years. We will help humanity evolve beyond aggressive tendencies Your people will learn to share resources, solve conflicts peacefully, and work for the benefit of all rather than individual gain. Lisa was excited by the possibilities. The scientific knowledge we could gain would advance humanity by thousands of years, but Ryan had concerns. What if some humans don't want to change? What if other species out there haven't evolved the way you describe? All species eventually reach enlightenment, HFY insisted. It is the natural progression of intelligence. Your concerns about external threats show how much humanity still needs to grow. Jake studied the alien carefully. Despite all the impressive technology and peaceful society, something bothered him. These beings seemed to have lost something important, even if they had gained much. We will need to discuss this with our government on Earth, Jake said. This is not a decision we can make alone, of course, HFY agreed. Take all the time you need. We have waited this long and can wait longer. Peace cannot be rushed. As they prepared to return to their ship, Jake noticed how the other aliens moved. They seemed almost too calm, as if all emotion and passion had been drained from them. Their perfect society might have cost them something essential about being alive. Amy established communication with Earth and began transmitting everything they had learned. The response from United Earth Command was immediate excitement, followed by cautious questions about the implications. Sir, I'm getting reports that Earth Command wants us to gather more information before making any commitments, Amy reported. Jake nodded, feeling relieved. Good, we need to understand exactly what we would be giving up to join this council, as the Meridian prepared to stay in the area for extended study. Jake wondered if humanity's aggressive nature was really something that needed to be eliminated. Maybe their ability to fight and compete was not a flaw, but a strength that these peaceful aliens had forgotten they needed. 3 weeks later, another human ship arrived at the station. The UN's explorer brought additional scientists and diplomats to begin formal cultural exchange with the Galactic Council. Dr. Kevin Walsh and Dr. Maria Santos led the scientific team, while ambassadors HFY assigned council researchers to study human civilization. Jake watched from the observation deck as the new arrivals toured the station. Dr. Walsh was amazed by the energy manipulation technology, while Dr. Santos studied the biological systems that kept the station running. Both scientists were taking detailed notes and asking constant questions about everything they saw. The council had also sent researchers to study humanity. Velanara of the Serenity Collective was particularly interested in human entertainment and culture. She spent hours reviewing movies, books, and games that the humans had brought as examples of their civilization. I do not understand this concept of competition, Velanara told Lisa during one of their daily meetings. Why would beings deliberately try to prevent others from succeeding? Lisa tried to explain sports and games, but the aliens seemed genuinely disturbed by the idea. Competition drives us to improve ourselves and achieve greater things. It makes us stronger and more capable, but it also creates winners and losers, Velanara replied. In our society, everyone succeeds together. No one is left behind or made to feel inferior. Ryan had been observing the council's security systems and was becoming increasingly worried. The station had no weapons, no defensive shields, and no military personnel. When he tried to discuss defensive strategies with council peacekeepers, they could not even understand the concepts he was describing. They have no idea how to protect themselves, Ryan told Jake privately. Their entire civilization is built on the assumption that nothing will ever threaten them, Jake shared Ryan's concerns, but he also saw the incredible benefits of council technology. Dr. Walsh had already learned how to improve their power systems by 300%. Dr. Santos was studying medical techniques that could extend human life by decades. The problem started when Velanara began studying human history. She reviewed records of wars, conflicts, and military strategies with growing horror. After reading about World War II, she requested an emergency meeting with Jake. Captain Morrison, your species has a severe addiction to violence, she said with obvious distress. These historical records show systematic destruction on a scale we cannot comprehend. Those wars were fought against oppression and evil, Jake explained. Sometimes violence is necessary to protect innocent people. Nothing justifies such destruction, Velinar insisted. Your species must overcome these primitive impulses before you can join civilized society, but Jake was beginning to notice things about Council society that troubled him. When the Meridian experienced a critical power failure, the human crew fixed it in 6 hours using creative solutions and improvised parts. The Council engineers who offered to help were completely lost by the human approach to problem solving. They work too chaotically, complained Council Engineer Mortek after watching Pete Davis repair the engine. There is no proper planning or systematic methodology, Pete just shrugged. Sometimes you have to try things and see what works. Their way would take weeks of planning for a simple repair. Dr. Walsh made a disturbing discovery while studying Council databases. The peaceful species seemed to have lost the ability to innovate quickly or adapt to unexpected situations. Their technology was incredible, but it had taken them thousands of years to develop things that humans might figure out in decades. They're too cautious, Kevin told Jake. Every decision goes through committees and consensus building. They spend so much time making sure everyone agrees that they never take risks or try bold new ideas. Lisa noticed similar problems with Council biology. The aliens had extended lifespans and perfect health, but they seemed to lack the drive and passion that motivated humans. Their emotions were muted and controlled as if strong feelings were considered dangerous. I think their evolution toward peace cost them something important, Lisa told Jake. They're safer and more stable, but they might have lost the spark that makes life worth living. Ryan discovered the most troubling information during his security studies. The Council had detailed records of their expansion across the galaxy over 50,000 years. But when he mapped their progress, he realized they had been steadily retreating rather than expanding. Look at this pattern, Ryan showed Jake the star charts. Every few thousand years they abandon whole sectors and move inward. They claim it's peaceful expansion, but it looks more like running away from something. Jake studied the data and felt cold fear growing in his stomach. What could make them retreat so consistently? I don't know, but I think we should find out before we commit to joining them, Ryan replied. The cultural exchange continued, but tensions were growing on both sides. Council members were increasingly disturbed by human aggression and competitiveness. Human scientists were frustrated by Council inefficiency and lack of innovation. Dr. Santos made an important breakthrough when she gained access to restricted Council medical files. She discovered that several member species had undergone genetic modification to eliminate aggressive traits. The peaceful nature of Council society was not entirely natural evolution. They surgically removed parts of their psychology, Maria told the senior staff. The capacity for anger, fear, and aggressive response has been literally cut out of their brains. That explains why they can't understand military concepts, Ryan said. They're not just peaceful by choice. They're incapable of violence even to defend themselves. Jake realized humanity was facing a crucial decision. They could join the Council and gain incredible technology, but they would have to give up the very traits that made them human. The question was whether those traits were worth keeping or obstacles to overcome. Ambassador Zefkai requested another meeting with Jake to discuss humanity's progress. The alien was concerned about reports from the cultural exchange team regarding human resistance to peaceful evolution. Your species is proving more difficult to guide than we expected, Zefkai admitted. Perhaps the timeline for membership needs to be extended to 500 years rather than 200. Jake looked at the peaceful alien and wondered if humanity really wanted to become like the Council members. They had achieved incredible things, but they had paid a price that might be too high for humans to accept. The alarm that woke Jake Morrison came from the long-range sensor array at 3 a.m. ship time. Amy Foster was on night duty when the readings appeared on her screen. What she saw made her immediately call the captain to the bridge. "Sir, you need to see this," Amy said when Jake arrived, still putting on his uniform. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive fleet approaching from the galactic rim. Jake studied the sensor data and felt his blood run cold. Hundreds of ships were moving toward Council space in a formation that could only mean one thing. This was an invasion force larger than anything in human history. "Get Dr. Grant and Commander Burke up here now," Jake ordered. "And contact Ambassador FK immediately." Within minutes, the senior staff was assembled on the bridge. The sensor readings showed ships with aggressive designs covered in weapon systems and armor plating. Their energy signatures were enormous, indicating technology that was at least equal to Council capabilities. "Range and estimated time of arrival?" Ryan asked as he took his position. "They're still 6 weeks out, but moving at incredible speed," Amy reported. The fleet composition suggests over 3,000 vessels of various sizes. Lisa was analyzing the ship designs when she made a disturbing discovery. "Jake, these ships are using technology similar to Council systems but modified for warfare. Whoever built them understands advanced science but chose to weaponize it." Jake opened a channel to the Council station. Ambassador FK appeared on screen, looking confused rather than concerned. When Jake explained what they had detected, the alien's response was not what he expected. "Unknown vessels are often merchants or explorers seeking to join our community," Zefkai said calmly. "We will send diplomatic messages offering peaceful contact and resource sharing." "Ambassador, these are warships," Ryan interrupted. "Their configuration indicates aggressive intent and massive firepower." "Commander Burke, your military thinking prevents you from seeing peaceful possibilities," the alien replied. "All intelligent beings eventually choose cooperation over conflict." Jake felt frustrated by the Council's inability to recognize obvious danger. "We need to prepare defenses and evacuation plans for populated worlds in their path. The Council does not maintain military forces," Zefkai explained patiently. "We have not needed such things for 50,000 years. Our response will be diplomatic outreach and offers of integration." After the communication ended, Jake called an emergency meeting with his officers. The situation was becoming clear, and it was terrifying. A massive hostile force was approaching, and the Council was completely unprepared to defend itself. "They're going to try to negotiate with an invasion fleet," Ryan said in disbelief. "They literally cannot conceive of beings who choose warfare over peace." Dr. Walsh had been studying Council historical records and found information that explained the current crisis. "I've been researching those sector retreats we identified earlier. The pattern shows the Council has been avoiding something for millennia." Kevin displayed star charts showing Council expansion over thousands of years. What had looked like peaceful growth was actually systematic retreat from advancing threats. Every few thousand years, aggressive forces appeared from deep space, and the Council simply evacuated entire regions. "They've been running from this problem for their entire civilization," Lisa realized. "Each time they retreat, the threat eventually follows them to their new territory." Maria made an even more disturbing discovery in restricted biological databases. The species that originally inhabited the rim territories didn't just disappear. According to these genetic records, they were absorbed and transformed by something. Before anyone could respond to this revelation, Amy received a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Robert Hayes appeared on screen with urgent news that made the situation even worse. "Captain Morrison, we've received similar sensor readings from our deep space monitoring stations. Intelligence analysis suggests these are the same ships that destroyed the Tau Ceti colony expedition 15 years ago." Jake remembered the Tau Ceti disaster. An entire human colony fleet had vanished without trace while establishing settlements in that distant system. Search and rescue missions had found no survivors or wreckage, just empty space where thousands of people should have been. "Sir, are you saying these beings have already attacked humanity?" Jake asked. "It appears so," the Admiral replied. "We're dispatching a battle fleet to your position, but they won't arrive for 8 weeks. You need to convince the Council to take defensive action." The first contact with the approaching fleet came 3 days later. The transmission was broadcast across all Council frequencies in dozens of languages. The message was simple and terrifying. "We are the Devourers," the voice said with mechanical precision. "Your worlds contain resources we require. Your populations will be processed for biological material. Resistance is not permitted." Compliance will reduce suffering duration. Jake watched the council's emergency session in disbelief. Even after hearing the direct threat, the alien leaders continued to discuss diplomatic solutions. Supreme Coordinator Lumthara proposed sending negotiators with offers of technology sharing and peaceful coexistence. Perhaps they simply lack understanding of our peaceful intentions, Lumthara suggested. Cultural exchange programs could help them evolve beyond violent tendencies. They just announced plans to process your populations for biological material, Ryan said in frustration. How much clearer does a threat need to be? Your species interprets communication through filters of aggression, Velinara replied. These beings may be using dramatic language to establish negotiating positions. Dr. Grant had been analyzing the Devourer ships and made a breakthrough that changed everything. The technology was indeed based on council science, but corrupted and weaponized beyond recognition. More importantly, she found genetic signatures in their transmissions. Jake, these aren't just random aliens, Lisa said urgently. The biological markers match species that were listed as extinct in council records. The Devourers are made from civilizations the council abandoned thousands of years ago. The implications hit everyone immediately. The council's policy of peaceful retreat had not saved previous civilizations, but rather fed them to these predators. Each evacuation had provided more resources and populations for the Devourers to absorb and transform. They created their own worst nightmare, Ryan realized. Every time they ran away, they made their enemies stronger. The first attacks began on the Rim worlds 5 weeks later. The results were exactly as horrific as the Devourers had promised. Entire planets were stripped of all organic material while their populations disappeared into processing facilities aboard the alien ships. Council monitoring stations recorded the attacks, but the leadership still refused to consider military response. Instead, they ordered evacuation of threatened worlds and continued attempts at diplomatic contact with beings who had already demonstrated their intentions clearly. Jake Morrison realized that humanity had arrived at the Galactic Council at the worst possible moment. They were about to witness the destruction of an advanced, peaceful civilization that was incapable of defending itself against an enemy it had created through its own policies of retreat and appeasement. President Helen Carter stood in the Situation Room at Earth Command watching real-time updates from the Galactic Council territories. The Devourer advance was proceeding exactly as predicted, with 3 more worlds falling in the past week. Each attack followed the same pattern: complete resource extraction and population processing with no survivors. Madam President, we have confirmation that over 50 million Council citizens have been killed or captured, reported General Patricia Stone. Their evacuation efforts are failing because they have no military escorts for refugee ships, Admiral Robert Hayes brought up tactical displays showing fleet positions. Our battle group is still 3 weeks out from Captain Morrison's position. We need to decide now whether to commit our forces or withdraw our people. The debate had been raging for days in the Security Council. Some members argued that Earth should evacuate the Meridian and Explorer before they were caught in the conflict. Others insisted that humanity had a moral obligation to help defend innocent civilizations against genocide. If we run away now, we'll face the same threat alone in a few years, argued Defense Secretary Carl White. The Devourers won't stop with the Council territories. They'll keep expanding until they reach Earth, but if we intervene, we're committing humanity to a war against an enemy we barely understand, countered Foreign Minister Janet Brooks. We could lose everything trying to save people who refuse to save themselves. Helen studied the reports from Captain Morrison describing Council leadership's continued refusal to organize military resistance, even as worlds burned around them. The aliens maintained their belief that peaceful solutions could resolve any conflict. What's the assessment of our chances if we do fight? Helen asked Admiral Hayes. Unknown, Madame President, the Admiral replied honestly. Human military technology is proven effective, but the Devourers have advantages in numbers and ship size. Our best hope would be combining our tactics with Council technology. Meanwhile, on the station, Jake Morrison was experiencing his own frustrations trying to work with Council leadership. Ambassador Zefkai had just rejected another proposal for defensive preparations, insisting that military action would only escalate the conflict. Ambassador, 3 billion beings died on Serenity Prime yesterday, Jake said, trying to control his anger. How many more have to die before you accept that these creatures cannot be reasoned with? Violence only creates more violence, Captain. Zefkai replied with maddening calm. If we respond with aggression, we become no better than our attackers, Ryan. Burke had spent the week studying Council ship designs with Dr. Walsh and Dr. Santos. They discovered that the aliens' vessels were incredibly advanced but completely defenseless. No weapons, no shields, no armor, just amazing technology with no means of protection. We could retrofit their ships with human weapons systems, Kevin told Jake. Their power generation and engine capabilities are far beyond ours. Combined with our military technology, they would be devastating, but we'd need Council crews willing to fight, Maria pointed out. Their psychological conditioning makes them incapable of violent action, even in self-defense. Jake had been thinking about this problem for days. The solution was obvious, but it would require convincing Earth Command to commit not just ships but personnel to an alien war, Amy. Foster interrupted their planning with an urgent communication from Earth. President Carter appeared on screen with Admiral Hayes and other senior officials visible in the background. Captain Morrison, we've made our decision, the President said. Earth will intervene to help defend the Galactic Council. Admiral Hayes is accelerating the fleet departure and should reach you in 10 days. Jake felt relief mixed with apprehension. Madam President, what are our rules of engagement? You have full authority to take whatever action is necessary to stop the Devourer advance, Admiral Hayes said. We're also sending Colonel Sam Martinez with Marine units and Major Cristina Lopez with tactical specialists. Sir, the Council leadership is still refusing military cooperation, Jake warned. They won't authorize weapons installations on their ships or allow their crews to participate in combat operations. Then we'll do it without their permission, the President decided. We're not going to watch genocide happen because the victims are too peaceful to defend themselves. The first hybrid vessel launched 2 days later. Jake had convinced a small group of Council engineers led by Mortec to work with Kevin Walsh on weapon installations. The project was technically illegal under Council law, but Jake was beyond caring about alien regulations. The ship they created was unlike anything in human or Council design. Council technology provided incredible speed and power, while human weapons gave it devastating firepower. Jake named it the Unity and took command himself with a mixed crew of humans and volunteer Council members. The Council volunteers were limited to technical positions since their psychological conditioning prevented them from operating weapons or making tactical decisions. Human officers handled all combat systems while aliens managed power distribution and navigation. This feels wrong, complained Council engineer Velanara as she watched human technicians install missile launchers. We are abandoning 50,000 years of peaceful evolution. You're choosing survival over extinction, Ryan replied bluntly. Sometimes that's the only choice available. The Unity's first test came when they intercepted a Devourer scout ship approaching the Harmony system. Jake ordered battle stations and felt the familiar tension of combat preparation. His human crew moved with practiced efficiency while the Council members struggled with concepts their minds were not designed to handle. Target acquired, reported Lieutenant Danny Wright from the weapons station. Devourer vessel is not responding to communication attempts. They don't negotiate, Jake said grimly. All weapons fire at will. The engagement lasted less than 5 minutes. Human targeting systems guided Council-enhanced missiles into the enemy ship's vital systems. The Devourer vessel exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the local star system. First kill confirmed, Danny reported with satisfaction. Enemy vessel completely destroyed, but Jake noticed that half his Council crew members were in medical bay suffering from severe psychological distress. Witnessing violence, even necessary self-defense, was traumatic for beings whose minds had been modified to reject all aggressive concepts. We're going to need human crews for combat operations, Ryan observed. The Council members can't handle The reality of warfare, Dr. Santos made a disturbing discovery while examining captured Devourer technology from the destroyed scout ship. The biological components were definitely created from absorbed Council species, but they had been twisted into something completely unrecognizable. They don't just kill their victims, Maria reported with obvious revulsion. They transform them into components for their ships and weapons. The consciousness might still be intact, but enslaved to Devourer control systems. This revelation finally convinced some Council members that diplomatic solutions were impossible. If captured, they would not just die, but be turned into tools for destroying their own civilization. Even beings modified for absolute pacifism could understand that some enemies left no choice except resistance. 3 more hybrid ships launched over the following days as Earth's battle fleet approached the Council territories. Jake knew they were preparing for the most important battle in galactic history, with the survival of multiple civilizations hanging in the balance. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Unity watching the massive Earth fleet emerge from hyperspace. The UN's Defiance and UNS Retribution led a formation of 30 ships carrying humanity's most advanced military technology. Behind them came supply vessels and troop transports filled with Marines ready for boarding actions. Admiral Hayes on Priority Channel, Amy Foster reported from her communications station. The senior Admiral appeared on screen looking grim but determined. "Jake, we've received updates on the Devourer advance. They're moving faster than predicted and will reach the Sanctuary system in 4 days." "Sir, that system has 3 billion Council civilians," Jake replied. "If we're going to make a stand, it has to be there." "Agreed," Hayes said. "Colonel Martinez is deploying Marine units to defend key installations while Major Lopez coordinates fighter squadrons. We're going to show these things what human military doctrine can accomplish." The combined Human Council fleet began immediate preparations for the largest space battle in galactic history. Dr. Walsh and Dr. Santos worked frantically to install human weapons on more Council vessels, while Ryan Burke coordinated tactical planning with human and alien officers. The cultural differences created constant problems. Council ship crews could not understand military hierarchy or rapid decision-making. Human officers grew frustrated with alien committees that debated every order before implementing it. "We need human crews on all combat vessels," Ryan told Jake privately. "The Council members are brave, but they literally cannot think in military terms. Their minds reject concepts of strategy and tactical advantage." "Do we have enough personnel for that?" Jake asked. "Barely," Ryan replied. "We'll put skeleton human crews on Council ships and use their people for technical support only." The Devourers arrived at Sanctuary exactly on schedule. Their fleet was larger than intelligence estimates had suggested, over 5,000 vessels of various sizes. The largest ships were mobile factories designed to process entire planetary populations into biological resources. "My God, look at the size of those things," whispered Lieutenant Nicole Palmer from her fighter squadron leader position. "The biggest ones are over 20 kilometers long." Jake studied the enemy formation and felt cold fear in his stomach. Humanity had never faced anything like this before. The Devourers had been absorbing civilizations for thousands of years, and their technology showed the accumulated knowledge of dozens of species. "All ships battle stations," Jake ordered across the fleet. "Communication system. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, but for every peaceful species in the galaxy." The battle began when Devourer scouts engaged human fighter squadrons near the system's outer planets. Lieutenant Danny Wright led the first attack runs, and quickly discovered that enemy ships were unlike anything in human experience. "Their hulls are regenerating damage," Danny reported over the combat channel. "We're hitting them with everything we have, but they keep repairing themselves." "Target their power systems," Major Lopez ordered from her command ship. "If we can knock out their energy sources, the regeneration should stop." Dr. Grant made a crucial discovery while analyzing battle damage reports. The Devourer ships were using absorbed organic matter to repair themselves during combat. Every civilization they consumed made their vessels stronger and more adaptable. "Jake, they're not just Ships, they're living organisms, Lisa reported urgently. The hull plating is grown from processed biological material. That's why conventional weapons aren't as effective, Dr. Santos was already working on a solution based on her medical research. I can modify our weapons to disrupt their biological systems. If we can poison their regeneration process, they'll become vulnerable. The main battle began when the Devourer fleet entered the inner system. Council defensive stations opened fire with energy weapons, but the attacks had little effect on enemy armor. The Devourers responded with weapons that literally ate through station hulls, consuming the material to strengthen their own ships. This is unity actual to all human vessels, Jake broadcast. We're going to show these things why you never attack. A species that still remembers how to fight, the human fleet moved in formation, using tactics developed over centuries of warfare. They concentrated fire on individual targets, overwhelming regeneration capabilities with sustained bombardment. Fighter squadrons harassed larger vessels while marine assault ships prepared boarding actions. Colonel Martinez led the first boarding attack against a medium-sized Devourer vessel. His Marines used powered armor and advanced weapons to cut through enemy defenses and reach the ship's control center. "Sir, you need to see this," one of his sergeants reported from inside the enemy ship. "The crew isn't aliens, they're processed beings from absorbed civilizations." Jake received the transmission and felt sick. The Devourers were using the minds and bodies of their victims as crew members. Millions of enslaved beings operated their ships under mental control that had erased their original personalities. "We're not just fighting the Devourers," Jake announced to the fleet. "We're fighting to free every being they've enslaved over." Thousands of years, the tide of battle began to turn when Dr. Santos' biological weapons proved effective against enemy regeneration systems. Human ships equipped with the new weapons could inflict permanent damage that the Devourers could not repair. "All vessels target priority ships with bio-disruptor missiles," Jake ordered. "Let's see how tough they are when they can't heal their wounds," but the Devourers had their own surprises. Their largest vessels began deploying swarms of smaller ships that moved with impossible coordination. The enemy was using a hive mind system that allowed perfect tactical cooperation between thousands of units. "They're adapting to our tactics in real time," Ryan observed from his tactical station. "Every move we make gets countered within minutes. Then, we'll have to be more creative than they can predict," Jake replied. "All human vessels implement Chaos Protocol 7. Chaos Protocol 7 was a desperate tactic that abandoned formation flying and coordinated attacks in favor of random aggressive actions. Each ship captain was given complete freedom to engage targets using their own judgment and creativity. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourer hive mind could not predict or counter completely random behavior. Human ships struck from unexpected angles using improvised tactics that no logical system could anticipate. Lieutenant Palmer led her fighter squadron in a suicidal attack, run straight through the middle of the enemy formation. Her pilots used every trick they had learned in training, plus several they invented on the spot to avoid enemy fire and strike critical targets. "This is for every world you destroyed," she broadcast as her fighters launched their entire missile load into a Devourer command ship. "Humanity doesn't surrender and we don't run away." The command ship's destruction created chaos in the enemy fleet as subordinate vessels lost coordination. Human ships pressed their advantage with renewed attacks while Colonel Martinez's Marines captured more enemy vessels. The final phase of the battle came when Jake led the Unity in a direct assault on the largest Devourer ship. The massive vessel was clearly the fleet command center, and destroying it would cripple the entire invasion force. "All weapons target the flagship," Jake ordered. "We end this here and now." The Unity's hybrid weapon systems unleashed everything they had against the enemy command ship. Council energy weapons powered by human tactical computers proved devastating against Devourer defenses. But the real victory came when Dr. Santos activated her biological disruption field at maximum power. The effect spread through the enemy fleet like a plague, shutting down regeneration systems and freeing millions of enslaved minds from Devourer control. Sir, I'm receiving surrender transmissions from multiple enemy vessels, Amy reported with amazement. The freed crews are taking control of their ships. The battle ended with the complete destruction of the Devourer invasion force. Sunk ships escaped back toward the Galactic Rim, but the main threat was eliminated. More importantly, the surviving vessels now carried free beings, who could warn other species about the Devourer menace. Ambassador Zefkai contacted Jake after the battle with an expression that might have been gratitude mixed with confusion. Captain Morrison, your species has accomplished something we thought impossible. You have brought warfare to our peaceful galaxy, but in doing so you may have saved us all. War isn't something we wanted to bring, Jake replied. But sometimes it's the only way to protect peace. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to address the new reality. They could no longer maintain their purely peaceful existence knowing that threats like the Devourers existed in the galaxy. But they also could not abandon their principles entirely. The solution was the formation of the Galactic Defense Council, with humanity providing military leadership and strategic planning while Council species contributed their advanced technology and resources. Ambassador Zefkai worked with Jake to establish protocols that balanced defensive necessity with ethical governance. We have learned that peace must sometimes be defended with strength, Zefkai admitted during the signing ceremony. Your species has taught us that survival and principles can coexist if we are willing to fight for what we believe in. Jake Morrison looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity had forever changed the galaxy.